Hello, and welcome back to Sonoma County Wildlife Rescue with our final of this series of live streams in terms of the typical operations here at our rehabilitation center. And so at the moment, we are hanging out in one of our two different life stages of outside enclosures for our raccoons. This moment, in our first week in August, raccoons are currently the most prevalent species on site. And so, hey, good morning, Julie. And so we do still have about 175 animals on site. A lot of them keep growing up or healing, being ready for release, and more keep coming in, about half dozen a day or so. And so of that 170, a good almost 60 are raccoons. And so today, just want to let you guys have another peek at what it looks like at the center and go through the cases and animals some of the highlights of what we have here. This is our typical big summer burden, and it has been going on for months now. And so for raccoons, we have to wait till they hit a certain level of development before they're ready to return to the wild. These guys are out of the hospital, out of the nursery, into our outside enclosures, but still need to mature quite a bit before they'll be able to ready to be head out into the wild, which will happen maybe at the end of the month, maybe next month along those timelines. And so now you can see the ones in the enclosure with us are acting appropriately bashful, hanging back. The ones in the enclosure next door are a little bit more bold because these guys are no fools. They can tell what's going on in terms of the fact that we're not a possible immediate threat to them with the barrier of that fence. But were we to go next door, you'd see that same reaction. The ones that are out by the fence would scurry into the den and just hide from protective safety like these guys are, as well they should. And so this is indeed kind of our peak capacity on raccoons. We do have a good half dozen raccoons in each of these enclosures. And then just across the hallway here, we have larger enclosures for our bigger fellows. And so we'll take just a quick little peek over there. And so, which are the ones in the final stages of either healing or, in this case, mostly just developing and growing before they return to the wild. So these are raccoons, so we can't be too safe in terms of making sure that everything is securely latched and closed. And so welcome everyone. I'm glad to have you with us. And so for our bigger enclosures here, we're just going to pop down and also have you put the camera through the fence, because these guys, as soon as we hit the door, they are going to bolt into the back into their little protective areas. And so by this age, they definitely know what's going on, and will be appropriately wary whenever we have such concerns as us humans nearby. And so this is the age where they're really just, it's going to primarily depend on their adult dentition. Once those adult teeth are in, the canine teeth, then these guys are capable for fending for themselves in the wild. If we have any concerns, we can always pull one aside, set it up separately, make sure it can maneuver and access all the food, capture everything it needs to capture. But overall, these guys continue to do great. And so, as with most of the raccoons. And so of our 175 animals currently on site, that also includes a pretty diverse group of species, between raccoons and opossums. That's about 100 of them. But then from there, we do have a handful of coyotes, which we'll go take a peek at next. We do have over a dozen foxes. We got plenty of raptors, and we even have one mink. Yes, mink are native to Sonoma County. And so every once in a while we'll get a weasel or a mink in. There are a couple species of weasel or one species of mink that can be native to our area. And so we're going to go ahead and head down the hill from here. And so as always, hi, my name is Dan, Dr. Dan Famini, the veterinarian for the facility. And if you guys have any questions along the way, just chime on in and let me know. Oh, it's a very exciting moment for the raccoons. They're about to get their meals for the day. And so last week for our summer batch of interns, if you are interested in interning here at the center, we do this year have a fall intern opportunity. And so you can reach out to us if you want to help out the animals and have the time to jump on in. And so this is the last of our official live streams of this summer, although we will open it up on Fridays towards public schools. If there's any school teachers out there that want to set up a live stream, whether it be like this on Facebook or the YouTube live stream or even Zoom, we'll take one school a week on Friday, or one class rather, and I'll connect directly with you guys. And so email us if you're interested in that. We'll also post about it tomorrow on Facebook with a couple more details for those who are interested. All right, here's one of our big rehab enclosures. And as with most of these enclosures, you can see they're protected from the stresses of direct visualization through the shade cloth. And so making sure these animals feel safe is critical. This is a species in here that is going to be particularly wary. And so we have 5 individuals in here that came from different parts around Northern California. And so these are all juveniles who are all growing and doing well. And so as they mature, eventually all of these guys are on track to be able to return to their native counties, including some from here in Sonoma County. And so we'll slip on in. So this is a very adaptive social species. They can be fine on their own. They can be in large groups. And so they, luckily at this age, they do well when put into different size groups. And so we'll see. They're probably going to hang out on the far side. So this is one of our larger enclosures. We tend to use it for our larger carnivores. We've used it, typically bobcats, or as we have right here, coyotes. And so right now, currently, we have, like I said, 5 different coyotes in this enclosure. And so they were gradually, started with just a couple, and as the others have come in, we've gradually added them one by one, making sure that they are all accepted by the others as they're in this growth and development phase. Now, we get these guys from all over this half of the state because this is a relatively large species for a lot of rehab centers. And many rehab centers just don't have the space or capacity or necessarily the experience with coyotes. And so this is kind of our ideal situation where we happen to have all of these guys that are approximately the same age, at least the same stage of development, so we can put them all together. Sometimes that doesn't work out so conveniently, and so we'll split them up amongst different kinds of enclosures. But this is kind of our peak situation, so that not only can they have a safe place to be able to develop and grow, but they also get that critical social interaction. And so coyotes, if you're not careful, they can become too acclimated to people. And so sometimes they do need a little bit of hazing or a little bit of help to have appropriate distance from people, because if you don't do that, then as soon as they're released, they're going to run right up to someone, and that'll be a catastrophic outcome, regardless of their otherwise health status. And so any questions coming in so far?
Beautiful saying good morning.
All right, so welcome one and all. Glad to have you guys with us for our final hurrah. And so we're going to end up going through a lot of the enclosures and then ending up, we'll stop by some foxes next, take a peek at some raptors, take a little visit with our aquatic animals, and then end up in the hospital where we have still plenty of orphans coming in. And pretty interesting story on that group of raccoons that was in the photo we mentioned yesterday. And so we'll show you guys what's happening with all of them as well. Very happy outcome so far on that cohort. All right, and so coyotes are, they'll eat a lot of meat, here we'll feed them a lot of rodents as well as eggs, but they do eat some degree of omnivorous produce as well. And so thanks to everyone who keeps bringing in those eggs. It is absolutely essential with the number of animals we have on site right now, and so really does help us out a great deal.
I don't know if you know the case with this one, but somebody was asking if the coyote that we received that was tied, found tied to somebody's yard, was it determined to be releasable?
So we've actually had not one, but 2 coyotes come in that were each found tied in someone's yard, one with a rope, one with a chain, 2 different counties, and both of them are doing great. In fact, both of them you saw, and so they were gradually introduced to that pack for the moment. And so when it first came in, it was just kind of shut down. It was dehydrated, and so it was hard to tell its temperament. But as the days went on, it was clear that as it became in better condition, it was indeed exhibiting appropriate wild behaviors, and now is doing excellent. And so we got a couple of them in there. Interesting to happen to have the coincidence of both of those at once. But yes, doing great. And so as long as you catch them before a certain duration, a certain age of interaction, coyotes and foxes really can quite be successfully rehabilitated. A lot of people think, oh, it was in someone's hands for a matter of days or sometimes a matter of weeks, and more often than not, we are able to successfully transition them towards true wild behaviors. All right, this is gonna be a tight squeeze. All right, so sorry for the roller coaster here of a view as we get through our double door system. And so pop back in our fox area. And so like I said, we do have 15 different foxes on site at the moment. And so the most mature are hanging out here in this larger fox rehab enclosure. We have a couple other small ones as well as a swing space that we'll use for a couple different swing spaces we use for a variety of species as need be. And so foxes, as mentioned before, are absolutely fantastic climbers. And so you can see, while there is a ramp over towards the den box, these guys don't need it. They'll go straight from the ground, straight up onto that perch, and then feel very comfortably up high, almost like a bird, where when they're gonna feel safer when they have relatively high area to go. And so we'll just head a little bit towards that guy. He'll probably, there you go, boom, straight up. And so we are fortunate in Sonoma County to have the gray fox. It's a great part of our native ecosystem, keeping rodents in control, although they'll snack on a lot of those grapes out in the vineyards and other issues as well. But they are one of the most adept climbing species of all the canids. And so there's we got a couple bashful ones, but we got these 4 who are out. And so, as you can see, while they're called gray foxes, they will have a variable amount of that reddish fur on the belly and on the legs, as opposed to the red fox, which is all red along the back and has the black paws and tail tip. But these are our native fox. And yeah, well, these guys are all over Sonoma County, even in the middle of downtown Santa Rosa. You'll see them coming out at dusk or at night. There's 2 different breeding pairs on the Santa Rosa JC campus that I'm aware of. And so one of our most prevalent species. We don't have them come in as often as the raccoons or the opossums, but probably would be number 3 in terms of the mammals we have coming on through. And then when we get into the hospital, we'll talk to you about, show you a couple different individuals we have with the hopping fox syndrome. And so we've had a big year for that so far. I think we have a half dozen or so who have come in with that already. And so now most of them are responding very well to the latest round of the treatment we're attempting. And so I think 5 of the 6 are clearing up beautifully. And we'll see how it goes. And so just since this is our last hurrah, I want to make sure you guys get to take a deep breath in our strange COVID time and hang out with the full spectrum of critters that we have hanging out with us. Shall I leave that for you to?
Yes, I will.
Okay. All right, again, sorry for our swirl here as we are in our little tiny closet-shaped size double door area, maneuvering a couple people to try to stay safe for both the animals and the humans involved. And so this is an unusual year for us where we are actually building not 1 but 2 different kinds of enclosures right now. And so you might hear some of that a bit of that construction going on as we head past in the next area. It's not every year that we have the opportunity to do so. The last enclosure we built was our big swing space up here, which I don't know if anyone's in it at the moment. I think they've all graduated out. But that we'll use for bobcats. If need be, we'll use it for foxes or coyotes. But we have 2 projects going on at the moment. And so, shall we peek in the flight cage? Let's go see who's in the flight cage. Always one of my favorite spots. And so for those of you who weren't with us, I think we only poked in here once before. This is our 100-foot long mew or aviary type enclosure, where we'll take raptors who have completed the physical healing process, but need some more conditioning, more strength training. Lots of times, especially our red tails and red shoulders, after they've been healing for a while, they just get a little bit lazy, for lack of a better word. They'll have been sitting there in relatively cramped areas while wings heal, and they just kind of get used to that sedentary lifestyle. Others, they were more severe injured, where they really had quite a degree of muscle wasting or other issues. And so there's a variety of reasons why they might need it, but a lot of raptors will need quite a bit of encouragement to gradually build those muscles to be able to fly. And so we should have a couple in here. I believe there's a red tail and a red shoulder who are in those final stages of healing. And so, all right. And so I want to be as low, as non-threatening as possible. We're going to head to the down slope side. Let's not get that pull between us. And so I'll let you focus on those birds as we will slowly head forward. And at a certain point, we'll get what is called the flight distance. That is the distance at which birds are no longer comfortable with our presence, in which point they'll take flight. We use the same phrase for running mammals as well. And so when birds are in here, it's not uncommon for us to have to encourage them to take laps, starting out with just a couple, and then building towards more and more. And so here we go. We should be getting pretty close now. I'm getting ready. Let's see who's going to show us how well they're flying. Oh, and then both of them at once. All right. Pretty impressive. All right, both that red shoulder and those red tails looking pretty good. All right, excellent, excellent. One having more adult plumage, one having more juvenile plumage. That's just fine. And so we are going to slowly and calmly make our ways back to the door. So that's what we want to see. These guys look like that's good maneuverability, maintaining good height, able to turn. Now, naturally, since the door is towards this other perch, we'll anticipate that we'll have another flyover on our way out. Sorry for that, folks. I don't know what you guys just heard, but our microphone just happened to get snagged on some of the branches that are here. So, hopefully that wasn't too disrupting to your auditory experience. All right. Now I'm going to be nice and quiet now and whisper so that we're as low disruptive as possible. All right, Kelsey, we're just gonna head to the high side and then make our way over to the door. Oh, good. Able to get right back up high. Good, good. Okay, well, that's enough of a workout for this session right now. See a little bit of open mouth breathing. So that's our cue to go before they get too anxious or stressed. And so, as you're seeing, this is a wooden slat structure, which allows plenty of light in, but is also safe for all those talons, no matter how the birds may interact with it. All right. Any questions or comments coming in so far? Nope. Okay. And so for those of you who joined us after the first few minutes, we are touring around our rehab enclosures, and we'll end up top in our hospital, where we'll talk about the cohort of raccoons who are in there, as well as some other highlights. And so next we're going to end up walking by our aquatic animal enclosure, where we do still have those 3 beavers and otter who are doing just fine. We're going to, down at the lower end, this is one of our expansions. We're actually adding on to this to have a second aquatic component to this enclosure. And so that's what's in process at the moment. And so you may hear a little bit of those construction sounds. And so we do have a very sloped aspect to this particular pond, because this is going to be more of our training pond for the beavers and otters who are still kind of learning how to swim. And so as well as this way, we'll also have the capacity to split this enclosure in two, as you can see, so that it will allow us to to harbor, to heal a larger number of individuals at any given moment. Ooh, I heard a beaver tail splash. All right, let's poke in real quick and say hello to our beavers. All right, so looks like it is feeding and cleaning time. And so away we roll, and so you can see those waters. So there is a natural cycle we do have to clean this pond pretty often. And so if we come down from below, you'll see it's still pretty clear, but it will naturally get muddy with time. And so, oh, look at that. Delightful fish. Just a snack waiting for that otter. So the otter, all right, that otter is getting pretty mature. And so we're going to start transitioning, getting some live crawdads and other food for that otter to be able to make sure that it can catch its prey. But if all goes well, the otter may be just weeks away from returning to the wild. Let's swing around a little bit. And so I see we do have several of our beavers. So that big tail splash as they head on in. So we'll see now both of these species is normal for them to hold their breath for a significant period of time. And so between our friendly intern who's cleaning out and refreshing that den box for them, the construction and our presence, this is a lot of activity. This is way more than these beavers have seen in a long time. And so they're naturally being a bit more wary than usual. Remember, beavers take a prolonged time to heal up and mature before they're ready to head out to the wild. So these guys will still be with us for many, many months. Whereas the otter is only going to need to be in rehab for a matter of weeks, maybe a couple months, depending on how quickly it adapts to catching its own prey. And so you can see we do have that trio of beavers. These are still quite young on the spectrum of beaver maturity. And so we were fortunate enough to spend quite a bit of time with them last time. And so I'm not quite sure where the otter is at the moment. And so let's take a quick peek in the den box on our way out. But so far, these guys have had no meaningful health concerns. They're doing great. And hopefully shall continue to do so for quite some time. And do you happen to be in here? Well, we'll see what the den box looks like, clean or not. Oh, there you are. Okay. All right, and so happy to see its appropriate behavior there, being anxious and wary around us. That's what we want in our wildlife. And so that's what's going on in our aquatic enclosure. Okay. All right. Well, that was downright adorable. Let's not lock the intern in the enclosure. Let's try to keep it from that experience today. All right, so we're going to head on up through our barnyard area. And so our raptor center is pretty full. We do have plenty of birds on site at the moment. We got Cooper's hawks, got red-shouldered hawk, got red-tailed hawk. We do have another golden eagle that just got transferred in. Seems stable for now. And so as we mentioned before, the juvenile golden eagles, they do take years of training, and there's another rehab center that really specializes in that. So as long as this eagle stays stable, we'll end up transferring it there in the days ahead. And so, I mean, you cannot understate how helpful those raptors are for rodent control in a lot of our areas. The two Cooper's hawk, we're feeding them a couple quail a day, frozen thawed, not live. They don't need that at the moment. But we had two red-shouldered hawks, two older juveniles, 20 mice a day, 20 mice. And so having barn owls or having some of those raptors on site can really be great for helping keep that ecosystem balanced on your personal property. And so, all right, I don't know how we're going to navigate this tight squeeze. Okay, and so we do appreciate all the hard work of those folks who are redoing our aquatic enclosure. But just gotta squeeze around because of the way things are laid out. And so in our chicken flock right now, we are actively expanding our flock. And so we just brought in a half dozen or so chicks. And so any of you who are into chickens might know how challenging it had been to get chicks available. We hatched our own. And so one of our staff has quite a few birds on the property, so borrowed an incubator and hatched some chicks. And so we do have our young ones who are just hanging out under that staircase. And so the staircase is there for the kids that help out as part of our PEEP program. Do we have eggs at the moment? Oh, they're on the way. Okay. And if you want to swing around to the backside, I do need to mention our poultry tip of the week. This is the single most important thing. And so the biggest problem I see, both in terms of costs for having chickens and in terms of disease and rodents, because the rodents are bringing disease. Here's the one single most important thing: have those feeders up and hanging. Have them up at the height of your chicken's back. So we have to accommodate the young ones right now. So it's a little bit lower in the back, but not all the birds are quite that high. But you can see that bird is able to eat that feed. Well, thank you for cooperating for our demonstration. And so that particular bird, that silver-laced Wyandotte, I believe that's that's our one, was actually presented to me when I was working at the emergency clinic. The last survivor, when a domestic dog had swept in and taken out most of a flock, had a number of major wounds. Owners weren't up for the cost of it for a chicken, so just had him surrender it. And then through my role at Wildlife, we patched it up, healed it up, and here she is. But long story short, on those feeders, have the back height, so that way a chicken won't use its feet to kick and spread and get that feed all over the floor. Not having that feed spillage is the best thing you can do to minimize the amount of rodents that you'll have coming to your area. Now, you can adjust these hangers here, and so you can see it's on the middle aspect there, which allows the feed to get right up to that brim. We need to change that. We need to move it to the higher peg so that the pellets aren't quite as high towards the brim, so that will reduce the spillage even more. And putting it on the floor, on the ground, that is just asking for trouble. And then if you really want to make a problem, you mix a little scratch in there, so then the chickens are just spilling everything to get to the bites they want. Do not mix your scratch and your crumble or pellets. Let it be separate things. And so that is probably the single most helpful thing you can do with minimizing disease, rodents, and waste of feed on your chickens. All right, so enough of my chicken soapbox. And so as we head by the PEEP barnyard area, we're gonna pop on into the structure proper and go into the hospital, take a look at some of the much younger orphans that are there at the moment. And so we also have a couple foxes in there. And so if we happen to have a staff in at the moment to assist, I'll have you guys demonstrate what the hopping fox syndrome looks like, which is pretty dramatic. And so make sure that if you do have any other questions or comments for us, that you chime in, since this is the last leg of our final predictable live stream for the summer. And so we, as most centers, are under COVID protocols. And so anyone who does bring animals to the center, we have them drop it off, and we'll get it through one of our drop-off areas. I'm not sure if there's anyone who will be close to us, but I'll be safe as we head through. And so zooming through the hall down to our hospital area. All right, looks like another new intake, such as the wild world of wildlife rehab. All right, and so we'll head on into the hospital area proper. Again and again, I can't thank you guys enough for the Facebook funding we got earlier in the year to be able to get the incubators. And so we are using, 5 of the 7 at this moment. Every day it changes, every day more come in, some graduate out. And so, I don't know if you want to use Sepulveda or you want me to use it. We'll just take a quick peek. Oh. All right, so yes, we are still getting plenty of squirrels, such as this juvenile gray squirrel baby. And so squirrels will continue to come in. Oh, it looks a little worn out. It was just wiggling around a moment ago. And so, and then we do have, let's see, this one was very vocal earlier. Oh, it looks like it has a full belly. Oh, and now the squirrel gets up and wanders around. So be it. And so, yes, we are still getting opossums in. And so the second wave of opossums is never quite as big a tidal wave as the first. And so we will continue to get these orphans in for the next couple months as the second wave comes through. And so this one's doing fine. These guys are so young they do need tube feeding, not yet on the bottle feeding. And then let's mention this cohort here of raccoons. And so with raccoons, as a lot of folks are aware, they're pretty common to be navigating our trash to find some of the snacks they want. And so we got a call, it was almost 2 weeks ago now, that coming out of San Francisco, if I remember right, that there was actually a trash truck, and so not a can, but a truck that had a raccoon within it. And so that there's unfortunate, there was a mom raccoon and these babies, there was 5 babies, who were all in that truck, in that trash can. It got picked up by the truck, and in the act of being put into that big truck, then these guys did get crushed, and all of them came in with different wounds. Of the 5, one of them was completely crushed and was not alive on arrival. But these other 4 had wounds in 4 different parts of their body. And in transport, in getting these guys to us, Mom actually escaped and headed on away. And so now some of these wounds are not done healing. And so you will see wounds these are in a healthy, happy, granulating stage. And so I'm very pleased with the way these wounds are progressing. But some of them I was able to close, some of them I was not. And so some of those are healing by secondary intention. And so let's see which one you are. All right. Yes, and so this one was one with the mildest of all injuries. It had a gash that was big and open along the front of the forearm here, but that was the extent of this individual's malady. So this one actually just needed to be cleaned up. It already had a nice, healthy, appropriate scab and was doing well. The next, the second to most lucky one, oh no, this is our arm fellow. Okay, so this one had, so you can see this one partially was able to close with sutures, but it had a huge gash up across the entire part of the arm. It has shrunken down to about 1/3 of its initial size. We have both new skin formation and contraction from the margins. If you saw the pictures of the individual in the giant kind of figure 8 sweater type bandage, that's this one. And so it needed that bandage on there to allow things to heal up. But it's now gotten to a nice, appropriate scab stage. And so it should be able to heal up from here. Okay. All right. And so we had this fellow who had a wound under the chin, a wound on the side of the face. Both of these needed some management for about a week, but not much. And then also, I don't know if he'll show it off or not, but the tip of his tongue, he had a necrotic, about the front 15, maybe 20% of the tip of the tongue was necrotic, and so that had to be debrided. Now they're going to open up. Oh, that is a 80% of a normal raccoon tongue. It did lose the tip, but everything has healed up since. It does still have sufficient amount of the tongue that it should be able to suckle as these guys go from tube feeding to bottles from here. And then lastly, we have the one that had the biggest wounds. All these guys think it's feeding time. They're getting very excited. And so this was a massive wound covering this entire area. It was really, all right, we're just going to have to manage you guys. It was really quite infected. And so first I tried to place a drain in there and close around it after scrubbing it up, tore that right open. Then I tried to partially close other aspects, tore that right open. It was an area of high motion. And so then we just went to bandage care, and now it's got a nice healing, contracting scab. So all 4 of these guys. And so, we live in a world with our wildlife. Humans and wildlife are not separate. And so there is always going to be that interaction. And so if you don't want to have raccoons in your trash can, you have to secure your trash can. And so when they do get in these kinds of situations, this is exactly why places like rehab centers are here. These are all ones that would have, at least 2 of them would have had catastrophic outcomes from their wounds. But luckily all 4 are going to do great now. And so I think we had better let these guys, so I roused them from their slumber. They are getting meals. At that age, they're probably on about 5, maybe 6 meals a day. I have to check the chart on there. Looks like they're down to 4. Great, definitely coming along. Good. Graduated down to 4. And so we'll just take a peek real quick at one last gray fox, just because it's almost, now we have not yet cleaned the enclosure, so there's a little bit of poop, don't worry. And so it almost matches our emblem. Instead of having a sling along that front arm, we do have one gray fox with a splint along that back leg. And so this one did have a fractured bone between the knee and the ankle. It did have a fractured tibia, and so it's already been in that splint for a couple weeks. This is a young healing individual. I'm hoping it'll only need it for 1 week more before it can go back out and heal with our other foxes from here. And so working in medicine in general, you never know what you're going to see. There's a wide variety of things that can all cause the same appearance. We do have some foxes that have that kind of metabolic hopping fox syndrome where you have to treat them with a steroid-type medication. We have others that will exhibit similar signs, and it happens to be a broken leg. And so here at Sonoma County Wildlife Rescue, we do everything I can to be able to identify what the needs are of these patients, have them heal on up so we can return them to the wild. And so thank you guys for being with us. Had any last questions come in? The last bit. So again, appreciate so much you guys joining us for these live streams. I hope everyone stays safe. Remember, if you want to take a peek at what was happening early in the summer, all of these live streams are archived. We got them on YouTube, got them on, you can always peel back in the Facebook feed, and we have them on our website as well. And so if there's any educators out there, any teachers that want to connect for a one-on-one between myself and your class on a Friday, we'll post details on that tomorrow so you guys can connect to that. That's just a free service we're offering to try to help our schools out. Thank you all, one and all, and have a great fall.